It's an exciting Monday afternoon. We are here once again to take a look at issues as they affect you and I in this continent, Africa. In the program Africa Discourse, I am Wilson Marshall. Today it's all about the Libyan crisis. You get to see what powers showing interests, showing what they call concern, showing what they call care. And of course, in some other aspects, showing what they call, or what is called, brute force. And that seems to be what has played out right now in Berlin, where the two warring factions led by two prominent persons, one backed by the UN and the other West, the other backed by France, Russia. Anyway, they went to Germany, Berlin to have a peace talk. Pundits are like asking, will this peace talk bring peace in Libya? Is it going to lead to a power-sharing formula? Is it going to lead to a unified system of government? Will the warring factions shoot their sword and look for where it will be possible for them to coexist? All these and more we'll take a look at on today's installment of Africa Discourse. With me here in the studio, I have a vibrant legal practitioner, both local and international politics is well grounded. Join me to welcome Barrister Henry Nwanzo. Barrister, welcome to the show.
Waiting, good afternoon. Viewers, good afternoon.
All right, welcome. And of course, very close to him is a vibrant youth, both local and international politics is well grounded. Join me to welcome Alex Obi. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. So here we are. After Gaddafi left the picture, Libya hasn't been the same again. We have a functional government, but that functional government backed by the UN and by the West, recognized by these two bodies. Even Turkey recognized this government, but they are facing stiff opposition from a very strong general, Haftar Khalifa, backed by Russia, supported indirectly by France, supported also indirectly by Saudi Arabia. And here we are still having that turbulence in Libya. And they called for a peace talk. That wasn't the first time they called for the peace talk. It's not going to be the last. The first peace talk was jettisoned. Hostilities resumed after ceasefire. All of a sudden they were called again by Russia, but neglected it until Germany called for the peace talk in Berlin. Both of the leaders were very eager to go to Berlin to see how they can really finalize a solution to the problems bedeviling Libya. Libya crisis, Berlin peace conference in view. Alex, take it up from there. What do you feel about all this?
Okay, first and foremost, I would like to say that peace is a process, it's not an event. And so it's not as if the Berlin conference would just signal the end, but it's a start. It's commendable, it's laudable, it's a movement in the right and positive direction. It's a sign of good things to come. Before any form of discussion can even start, we need a form of ceasefire. We need a form of ceasefire. What is needed in Libya right now is a political solution. Yes, a political solution, because a military solution will lead us to nowhere. And I'm very happy that the parties involved have been called to the table, and they've been asked to sign some certain documents. They should hold fire for the meantime while we discuss some other salient issues. It's also very important that the actors that are involved come to a compromise. What I fear in this kind of crisis is that in the case of General Haftar, who seems to be making a lot of progress, he has a larger part of the country, is moving steadily to Tripoli. He might see this as, you know, this whole peace process as a ploy to stop its takeover of the government. You know, in my opinion, I think he might be having this view that he has a lot to lose if it goes for broke. And so these are the issues. They must arrange the plan properly. They must be able to come to compromise, and the actors must put the Libyan people at the top of their priorities.
All right, making Libyan citizens priority will have to listen to reasons, because believe you me, he has succeeded in grabbing a larger portion of Libya. Barrister Henry. over to you. What are your thoughts and opinion on the peace process and what has bedeviled Libya for almost going to a decade right now?
Yes, it's a very sad situation that is happening in Africa. Sad situation in the sense that we have allowed certain things to go the way they are going because those who it is their responsibility to nip the situation in the bud from the onset never did anything until it got to the point where it is now. After the exit of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, Libya has never known peace, and the man told them, even before he finally died through the process, the man made them understand that the moment he leaves the stage, that the center can no longer hold itself. And that is what you find in Libya today. You have Haftar, you also have Siraj. Though the United Nations has recognized a government in place, but you also find out that other powers, Egypt, Yemen, of recent Russia, they have recognized Haftar, and they have also succeeded in assisting, even supplying arms to enable him push forward that which he has in mind. It has never been for the interest of the Libyans, as it were, because if you ask the Libyans today, are they ready for what they are seeing, they will tell you they were not actually ready, but because of the Western powers who have succeeded in disintegrating them, but unfortunately, before they realize it, the water has passed under the bridge so much. So, but if the peace process as arranged by the Chancellor of Germany, if it goes the way it has been planned, I know at the end of the day, there will be a respite for the people of Libya, but that depends on those who are supporting them. Because if a man had decided to go to war with his own country, as it were, and there's nobody supporting him in terms of troops. Recently, Syrian troops were all brought into Libya. If they are not there to assist them in fighting each other, I don't think this war would have lasted the way it has done. But I believe that the peace process will go a long way in finding a lasting solution, if not now, but in the nearest future.
All right, if not now, but in the nearest future. While you were here talking, Alex, you talked about a General Haftar having larger chunk of Libya as it stands today. Now, Russia called for a first peace talk, but it was jettisoned. Nobody listened to Russia. And now Germany called for it. It's like they're responding to Germany. Do you see any reason behind this?
Well, if you ask, I would think because Germany is seen as a neutral actor without necessarily taking sides, while Russia has interest in backing General Haftar through equipment and also funding some of the mercenaries that are all over there. So I think that's why. And again, maybe the part of the way the plan, the peace plan in Germany was much more clearer to General Haftar. And I think he also got some form of confirmation from his backers. Because while in Russia, we learned that Egypt and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, who are major funders of this war, he had to confirm with them and they asked him to go ahead to sign the peace deal. Because it's all about who is backing you. Because you will need money, you will need weapons, you will need equipment, mercenaries to further your cause. So I think part of the solution to this crisis is to call the larger actors. We're
going to the solution. Yeah, we'll take a look at what really led to the build-up of this peace process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point I was trying to make is that there are unseen actors, who are pushing this. It's almost getting to the level of a proxy war, where world powers and semi-world powers and people with all kinds of interests would want to further their cause. And so you see people at different sides, countries aligning to different sides. And of course, it's more of a case of when two elephants fight, the grass suffer. In this case, the grass is the Libyan people.
All right, the case of where two elephants fight, the grass, so to speak, suffering. Now, the reason that Russia gave, according to the point, is why they choose to support Haftar is because they liken him to Gaddafi, a strong man that is not, how will I put it now, I'm looking for this word, an extremist. Yes, Islamic extremist. Is that enough for Russia to back up General Haftar?
Well, just as they said, it is for their own interest. If not, most probably they have seen Siraj as a man they cannot easily manipulate, and they have seen a ready tool in the person of Haftar. That is why they are saying it. If the people of a particular nation has agreed that this is what we want, that will move our nation forward as it were, they have a government that is in existence. A man is leading war against the government, and you are supporting the man, claiming that you see the man as a man who you can play that role which you want him to play. Because everything borders on issue of interest. What is their interest? If they say they are supporting Haftar because they see him that he's not an extreme. Extremist to what point? Is it the extremist to the fact that he will attack neighboring countries, or the extremist to the fact that he will not obey the rule of laws as it borders on the lives and times of the people of Libya? So you find out that in actual fact it is an avenue for them to sell their weapons. It is an avenue for them to, go into issue of, it is an oil nation. So everybody has an interest. That is why everybody is kind of troubled, because for now you see the quota they are producing in terms of the oil is not as what they used to produce in those days, as it were. So everybody is showing an interest. So Russia have their own interest. The defense they are taking, to me, does not make sense to any reasonable person. It is for their own personal interest, and for the fact that they can easily see a ready tool in the person of General Haftar than seeing that in the person of Khalif Sarraj.
All right, now talking about Khalif Sarraj and General Haftar, according to Barrister Heron Wiles, of being a ready tool, do you share the same views and opinion on this?
Of course, I know it's all about interest, but I have never been a fan of democracy at all costs. Like
democracy
I said,
at all costs.
The last time when I was around, came to the show, I said that democracy can only thrive in the midst of other very integral and important factors. Rule of law, checks and balances, independent judiciary, fiscal responsibility, absence of corruption, and all that. You see, nations without strong institutions, nations without a strong military and all that, normally would require a strong man. And so if we were to look at it pragmatically, if Sarraj, okay, let's say it's the people's choice, okay, through democratic process.
Is it really people's choice?
Yes, that's even the first question. Let's say it's the people's choice, but if he doesn't have that personality, that respect, that command, is he able to hold the Libyan people and the nation together? Will he be able to unify the fighting, the various warring factions? So Haftar has presented himself as someone who has that personality, who commands that respect, And if you ask me, if he's given the full support, Libya would need a sort of more like a transition government, a strong man who is going to hold them together, unify them, and give way for democracy at a pace that they can cope with. Not the way the West wanted it. It should go at a pace that they understand, and whatever kind of government should be peculiar to them. That's my own take.
No, he said not the way the West wanted it, because the West that are supporting the Tripoli-led government, while Russia is supporting the Haftar, the Tobruk, so to speak, led government. Is it now a proxy war between the West and Russia?
Yeah, to some extent it is, because at any point in time, you always find the West and Russia trying to see how far they have gone in terms of commanding respect, especially when it borders on some countries they feel that they are not as strong as they are. So they use them to test their, I will not use the word popularity, I'll use their level of command as a nation. Those who are in support of them, those they can easily find as their own allies when it matters most, when they are pursuing their own personal cause. All of them, as it were, nobody pursues a cause that will be to the benefit of the people of Libya. That is my own point. Because if actually they want, those support they are giving, what stops them? All this while they have been trying to call a kind of a truce between these two warring factions. But at the same time, you have some other smaller splitter groups. that we, on their own, will not even want this crisis to end because certain persons are benefiting. That we are talking about the issue of the oil as it were. Today, they are lifting oil as it were there because some persons are busy doing their business, and anytime you not say that this war should end, these persons do not see it from that angle because in the process of selling their arms, oil will be given in exchange of it. If physical cash are not given, they will get oil. They will get, some will get oil, well, some will get other things as it were. So I see it as the usual politics you find in the world where these superpowers will always use all those smaller powers as it were as an avenue to test that which their loyalty or to test to show that they have been able to be in control of this person. They determines what government, is in a particular place at each point in time, which to me is usually for their own selfish interest.
No, all right, now there is this power in the East, but they will not consider them as a superpower, so to speak, though they have their own might and right. Talking about Turkey, in all these issues, what's the problem of Turkey? Because Erdogan also is talking to saying he's supporting the government of Tripoli.
Yes.
So why is he interested? Because at first it was like they're just there watching, that they're behind the scene trying to assess, analyze the situation. Right now, they are choosing side.
Okay, like you rightly said, Turkey is a middle power. Turkey has been trying to, within the Arab League and Islamic world and all that, to try to impose their influence in the midst of Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the likes. And also the routes, the shipping routes around the Libyan territory close to Greece is of utmost importance. And also the fact that proper alignment at the right time could lead to future benefits. And so, and of course, the President Erdogan is also trying to deviate a little bit. There's so much attention and pressure from the home. There's been so much going on in Turkey, and so this is more like just to distract the people a little bit, so it's just to find something useful doing abroad, just take a stand. And you can see the move by Turkey was supported by the House in Turkey. So that's to me is why Turkey is all surprisingly involved in an issue like this.
Now, can one deduce from what is going on right now that the battle in Libya has religious affiliation one way or the other, Barrister Henry?
Yes. You will even find out that most of all these countries as well were never Islamic nation. Even Turkey itself, if you look at your Bible very well, all these countries were never Islamic nation. It has more been this idea of trying to Islamize certain parts. That is how they became what they are today. Because if you look at the Bible, even the Iran, the Turkey, Libya, as it were in the Bible, you will find that they were never Islamic nation. So everything borders on the fact that certain persons, because of this religion, as it were, they tie it so much to themselves that at each point in time, they want to ensure that every part of the world becomes part of them, which in most cases is not usually easy because certain persons will always want to see it from a different point of view. So, but I see it from that angle that it is one of those moves, as it were, to ensure that Islamization, as it were, continues in that part of the world, especially for those of them. You have the Shiites and the other groups, the Sunnis. So the Shiites will always want to dominate anywhere where they are because it has always been their style. You find them in most parts of these Arab nations. They want to stamp their authority to ensure that theirs or whatever they do or whatever they say becomes an authority. But you also find that those other smaller groups will always want to shout out. So, no, it cannot continue to be your own way. Sometimes you should hear from us and allow us to do our things our own way. So I see from that angle. But we are believing God that notwithstanding the crisis as it were, if the peace talks continues, at the end of the day, there will be a headway. The people of Libya, I know, will one day sit down and decide to look at it from a different angle entirely, knowing fully well that those who are supporting the different groups, as it were, It is for their own primary aim. It is not for the interest of Libyans, as it were.
Their own primary interest, but not for the interest of Libyans, as it were, according to Barrister Henry Uwazo. Mind you, the conference was scheduled to take place, was it today? Yeah, or yesterday or today, and they had this talk, at first it was a stop brief, a short brief stop at Greece, that they went straight up to Germany, and discussions have been going on for the first time. These two men, yes, Siraj and Haftar, were able to sit in one room. They saw each other face to face and they talked. Anyway, let's see if they're going to obey the tenets or whatever they've been agreed to in this conference. Now take a look at the Syrian war. Russia supported Assad, and up to now, Assad is still very much intact, despite the hues and cry of the West and other allies trying to hit off the president, so to speak, of Syria. And now Russia is backing Haftar. Do you see Syria playing out itself in Libya? The proponent being backed up by Russia, carrying the day.
It's a possibility. And you know, Vladimir Putin is someone that does not, anytime he sees a chance to be at the other side against the West, he takes it with both hands. It could be that kind of situation if we are not very careful. And Russia, and part of the reason why Russia is trying to be more involved, because when they deposed Gaddafi, Russia still regrets the decision up to now that they played no part in at least taking a stand or even supporting Gaddafi, who was more like an ally to them. And so now they don't want that kind of mistake. They want to be a key player. And that's why they were the first to, when they called the both leaders to Russia, you know, and they tried to sign a peace deal and it didn't work out, they felt really bad, you know, because they wanted to be at the center of everything. They wanted to be more like the ombudsman that eventually gave peace to Libya. So they're trying to play a very, very important role. And okay, let me just quickly step into this religion matter. Yeah. You say war is politics with bloodshed, while politics is war without bloodshed. And most of the times, it's just about politics and interest. Not necessarily about religion all the time, but religion is always an effective tool. It's always about interest. When it comes to politics and interest, those things take the back seat. But religion is always an effective tool to manipulate the people. Because that's how you get popular support. You have to tell them this or that. That's how you increase the morale, even of the troops. You have to tell them. You give them, you know, spurious stories. Like, oh, this guy is trying to take our homeland. They're trying to colonize us. They're trying to bring a foreign. So they say all kinds of things. But it's about politics and interest, about wealth. Because as long as there's war, there are a lot of people who benefit from war. There are the mercenaries. There are those who sell weapons, like my colleague said. There are all kinds of actors that like the status quo, because the status quo favors them.
Because the status quo favors them. Now, I'd like you to take a look at it also from the question I threw at Alex, talking about the situation in Syria replicating itself in Libya, knowing fully well that the Russians are backing what they feel or what they felt to be a strong man that can take Libya to the next level. General Haftar.
Well, it's the same thing that happened in Syria. We know what happened in Syria, and it's still happening in Syria today as we talk. And even as we talk, the Syrians have already entered Libya. Most of the soldiers are there. They are brought into Libya. Just as he rightly said, sometimes people look at it as if it is religion, but politics is the major thing. Everybody wants to be recognized. Everybody wants to remain at the center where the action is. Everybody wants to be seen as one of those controlling powers, as it were, when it borders on those smaller countries in the world. And that is what Russia is doing today. Though people might look at it from the religious point of view, the Shiites, who are usually, they claim they are in the majority, but nobody has done census to actually determine whether they are actually in the majority. But they will try to lord it over other persons with those powers that usually back them, who also have the same tenets as them. So you find out that what is happening in Libya today is the same thing that happened in Syria, and till today the war in Syria has not ended, though notwithstanding that America and some other countries are saying they are withdrawing their troops from Syria, as it were, because at the end of the day, it is the same, the people that suffers it. It is Syrians that were killed in thousands. No, if at all the other nationals that were killed, you cannot compare the number of persons who are other nationals that died in their Syria war. It's the same thing as it is happening in Libya today, and if care is not taken, it's the same Libyans that are continuously going to be killed, not even other nationals as it were. Those accepted they are sending their soldiers there, but it is for their own primary purpose, either to show for the fact that they are a superpower, or because of the economic interest, because everybody has its own interest to protect at the end of the day. So what we are seeing in Libya is the same thing that happened in Syria, but we pray that it does not degenerate to that level at which it were in Syria. Accepted that you have superpowers trying to, lord it over themselves, as it were.
All right, superpowers just trying to make their position known in the Libyan crisis has been ongoing since the death of Muammar Gaddafi. Yes, he was like a prophet, or he turned into a prophet before his demise. He said, you guys are going to miss me. What you're enjoying right now, when I'm taken out of the picture, it will not be the same again. Just to paraphrase and rephrase what he said before he was taken out of the picture. Now, Germany choose to come into the issue. Since the onset of this unrest, we've not seen Germany taking a position or even trying to settle both parties. Why now? Because you can see Angela Merkel just there standing at the middle of it all, trying to broker peace. Why is Germany stepping up now?
Oh, aside from the, of course, the
conference that will be taking place in Berlin, why are they trying to show interest?
At the risk of sounding cliche that all countries have an interest, Germany and France are major players, major actors. They are like the principal actors in the European Union. And so they are always at the forefront of issues that Europe considers important. And so, yes. So, and of course, because of Germany's long-standing relationship with Russia, which became a little bit tense because of the Ukrainian issue. And so they felt it wise that it was time for them to step up and try to reach an agreement, a compromise with one of the major players, which was Russia. And so that's why this issue is a very important issue to the European Union, because they were also principal actors during the deposition of Saddam. And so wherever the European Union is involved, Germany and France would always be at the forefront as principal actors of the Union.
So because of the EU?
Partly, and also because of the interest.
All right. Now, do you share the same thought and opinion on the emergence of Germany in this whole issue? Though they've been there working on the ground, but they choose to come out.
Sorry, again, quickly. And also because of the migrant issue. Because there have been a lot of immigration problems as a result of the crisis in Libya. And so European countries are well aware that if there is no peace here, it means that it will come back. When your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't try to put it out because you're a good person. You put it out because if that place is burnt, you are next. Yeah.
Interesting. So, Barrister Henry?
No, it's the same position, just as he rightly said, because this is way to Europe, as it were. You have migrants coming from all over Africa trying to pass through the Red Sea, and they pass through Libya. And with the crisis on ground, the rate at which the migrants will be coming to all these European countries will be high, because usually when there is crisis in this part of the world, that is where you find people trying to give one excuse or the other why they are migrating. So that is another point. And another issue too, that the German Chancellor is looking at as an avenue to become, to enable them see how this crisis can be settled. Because the European Union, as it were, they are part of the negotiation. you have the African Union, you have the Arab League, as well as the United Nations. So they want to play that role as a mediator because they have stood their grounds on the point that they are neutral. They are not supporting any group, as it were. And that is the reason why you even find out that you have over 20 countries are attending the Berlin Conference because they have seen that they have been remained neutral since the inception of the crisis, as it were. But if they have found out that they have an alliance with any of these groups, you would not have had that. So because of their neutrality and because of the fact that they don't want that issue of the migrants to increase more than what you have before now, that is why they have come out to play that role, as it were, to ensure that there is peace in Libya, to ensure that the crisis, as it were, that the Libyans too, they have a respite, notwithstanding the positions of the superpowers who, one way or the other, have benefited from the crisis that is going. Because it is the Libyans that are the ones that are suffering it. When you talk about the issue of employment, talk about the issue of the economy of the country, as it were, cannot be what it used to be in the days of Muammar Gaddafi, when the Libyans were more or less living a life that they have nothing to bother about, because their government have ensured that their what would have bothered them have been taken care of by government. Or is it the shelter? Is it in terms of food? Is it in terms of education, hospital? Whatever thing that the Libyan needed to make life comfortable was actually provided for them. But today, the reverse is the case. So, and I know of a truth that they, as the people, are not happy with what is going on.
All right, they, as the people, are not happy with what is going on. The case of Libya, can it be likened to paradise lost? After this break, we will come back to really talk about the impact of the African Union. Apart from Egypt, I don't see any other African country that is really showing much interest in this. How come they had to move the peace talk to Berlin? Apart from Egypt also, none is like there to say, yes, this is our stand when it comes to African issues, especially when it has something to do with Africa. The Union, are they helpless? We'll be right back after this break. Do stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you just joined us, this is Africa Discourse. We're taking a look at the Libyan crisis. The Berlin Peace Conference is going to bring about peace in Libya, because since the death or demise of Colonel Gaddafi, Libya has been a kind of a state where it's likened to as paradise lost. Yes, factions here and there, fighting here and there, and of course a general seems to be bulldozing through Libya, having a larger part, a large chunk of Libya, the person of Haftar. What about the Tripoli-led government? What do you think they would do? Signing this peace accord, to whose detriment, to whose advantage? Would the Libyans eventually come out to shout hallelujah? At last, peace has returned to the land? We don't know. Ours is just to report back to you. Now, the Union, African Union, it's like this is beyond them. It's like it's above them. It's just like they are just there bearing the name African Union, all back, no bite in this situation. Take it up from there. I
think I could not agree with you more. The powers that be. And first and foremost, you know, most times African Union seem to solve issues that are affecting sub-Saharan Africa. In any case, the Arab members of the African Union do not necessarily consider themselves members of the African Union, except when it's convenient. You know, they are more comfortable with the Arab League and other issues that have to do with the Middle East. So I think first and foremost, because of the powers that be, those that are involved, at least one would expect, at least the African Union would even play an observer role, even if it's not a leading role. So it's really disappointing. It's really disappointing as Africans play the role of an ombudsman trying to get peace, you know, trying to lobby more powerful nations so that we can have a political solution to this. It's really surprising. And I don't know, they need to sit up.
They need to sit up. Barrister Henry, the African Union's role in this seems to be dwarfed by so many situations and excuses, so to speak.
Well, it has been a sad situation, but there's nothing one can do as it were, because where they are supposed to have voiced out, they have not done enough for the African states, as it were. And before this crisis snowballed into the position as it is today, they have been there. The African Union, they hold meetings here and there, either in Addis Ababa or someone else. They have their leaders. What have they done? Have they been able to call these parties who have been waging war against their nation to say, no, brother, this nation is your nation. This nation is our nation. You should not do this. They have not done that. Nobody has been, courageous enough to, do that. Apart from Egypt and Congo, who have supported the general, and that is where you find the problem again. Brother fighting against brother. So you find out that sometimes when things go wrong, as it usually does, it is because those who would have been able to put out the fire before it started engulfing everybody did not do that. And because of interest too, because we also look at the issue of interest. People, those who have interest, will not want the crisis to end, because if the crisis ends, where would they sell their weapons? Where would they be able to lift oil without paying what is commensurate to it? Or do so, I will supply you arms, and then I will be able to lift oil from a particular place for a particular period of time, and no one. Where would they now, sometimes send their troops? These troops who they send to these parts of the world to fight war, as it were. They have their own benefits to get at the end of the day. So I see that the African Union has not done much to ensure that there is peace in Libya. And sometimes it is in the past, apart from the ECOWAS, when they have crisis. I remember in the days of Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria played a very strong role in ensuring that peace came to this part of the world. You don't have ECOMOG at that time. So just, send troops to all these. It's only the African, the ECOWAS, that is, the countries within the West African sub-region that usually have a kind of a common force. But the African Union, as it were, they have not been able to do much in terms of bringing peace to where there's crisis. Congo, there's still crisis in Congo. South Sudan and all that, there's still crisis. They have done nothing in this part of the world to ensure that the peace comes to this part of the world. But be that as it may, we thank God, so far so good.
All right, so far so good. Now, pundits of the opinion that remove the oil from Libya. All these powers grappling to make sure that there's peace in Libya, you won't see them there. How true is this?
Very true. It bears to the point that it's all about interest. Because, yes, that's the basic reason for most wars, resources. Everybody trying to get its own part of that resources. And also, going back to the African Union matter, I think there's also a problem of capacity. Even if the African Union has the intention of doing it, do they have the capacity for a war that is as sophisticated and complex as that? And that's why I'm also a proponent of smaller groups. That's why the ECOWAS, the ECOMOG, and the ECOMIL, they were more effective, because it's easier. A smaller group, people that are a little bit more similar. Because people, when they say Africa, it sounds as if it's one, homogeneous entity. It's really, really diverse. How do you compare someone in far Morocco with a black man in Congo, or someone in South Africa? So it's a really, really diverse continent. Also, most of the governments that make up this African Union have not even put their own house in order. You are talking about trying to solve issues when most of these countries are in one form of crisis or the other. Look at our country, having all kinds of internal issues. So, as it stands now, there's already so much on our plate. Okay, let us use Nigeria as a case study. Would it not sound funny if our president goes and starts to try to solve Libya problem when we have Boko Haram at our backyard? So you see, a lot of African countries have so much internal problems. So that burden is coming to bear even at the level of the African Union.
All right, over to you now, the oil factor. I mean, no oil, no peace talk. And of course, it's talked about forming smaller units in Africa to checkmate regional problems.
Well, the truth still remains that just as we have argued here and we have continued to postulate, that the truth still remains that if remove oil from Libya, nobody will be going there. It is because of what these countries are benefiting. That is why people are busy ensuring that this crisis continues. It's the same thing with South Sudan. If there's no oil, what business do you think Russia will have? What business do you think France or all these other Egypt, Congo DR and others will be doing, Yemen, Jordan and all that supporting Saudi Arabia? But it's because of the oil. Because as the crisis is going on, a lot of things is going on that the people, the Libyans, are the ones that are suffering it at the end of the day. Those things that have made life meaningful for them is no longer there. Because now people are talking about their safety. Nobody is talking about how do I go to work or how do I feed. No, how do I, are you sure that if I leave today, what happens tomorrow? I might sleep. Before you know, there is a bomb on top of my roof and that is the end of me. So what we are trying to say in essence is that remove oil as it were from Libya, peace will return to Libya. Because those who are fueling the crisis as it were, we have nothing to fall back to. Because is it the human factor that is there that have nothing or nothing to add to them, but because of the oil. And because they have seen that place as a Newfoundland where if this crisis continue, they will continue to milk them until they make them dry.
All right, now let's talk about solution. Though the process is ongoing right now, like what you said, peace is a process. You don't just arrive at it. You have to go through so many steps, so many rigorous activities and events to really ensure that there is peace. What do you think will work in this Libyan crisis? They've tried all they can before now. It failed. They talked about ceasefire. All of a sudden, hostilities resumed. And here they are going to Berlin, Germany, for this same peace talk.
The Middle East is a highly combustible region. Peace has eluded most parts. We cannot afford another Syria. In my opinion, what I think would work would be a government of national coalition, whereby the both, let's not forget that there are other rebel groups. Because the After and Sarraj are just the main actors. And they have splinter groups. Yes. Yeah. So I support a government of national coalition where the two main groups, and of course, considering the others, would contribute. You know, maybe let's say you have a situation whereby you have a president, you bring the prime minister, or bring some certain form of ministers, you know. But aside from that, they must be able to reach a compromise. My greatest fear is that anybody who, in the case of General After, who thinks he has gotten to a reasonable level would, you know, most times when you think you can win the war, there is a high probability that you will not want peace, you know. But at the end of the day, a government of national coalition is part of the solution. Then there are those who are at the back, the unseen hands, those who are foiling this war. They must be called to order to avoid a proxy war. That's what the President of France said, Macron. The international actors, they must cease henceforth to continue to supply weapons, to continue to insist on, it's very, very important. That's what happened in Syria, that's what happened in Yemen. International actors who are foiling the war from the background. Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. Barrister Henry, you're going to have the last take on this discussion. The way forward.
Well, to me, just as my brother here rightly said, those who are fueling the crisis, the international actors who are behind the scene, who have been benefiting from the crisis that is going on in Libya, they all should stop and have a rethink and see Libya as part of this world, because most probably they are seeing Libya as people who came from this place. They are not part of those who are in this world. So again, the government that as the Western powers should also understand that it is not everywhere you go that democracy must thrive. You should allow the people to take a decision, decide on the type of government they want. It must not always be the government by the people and for the people. They must have their own way, because when you look at their religion, look at the way of life of the people, look at every other thing that makes them what they are. And again, finally, the people of Libya should all come back together, think and see their country as a nation. Remember what Muammar Gaddafi told them, that the moment I leave, the unity you people enjoy today, the love and the oneness you people enjoy today, all the good things you enjoy today, you will see them no more. And that is what is happening today.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate a wonderful analysis. But just to bring this information to you at first, they talked about coalition government. Haftar said no. So tell me, how do you think they are going to resolve this? We keep watching. We keep praying that peace will return to Libya. See you tomorrow on International Forum. God willing, bye for now.